Sean Connery goes scuba diving in the fourth James Bond extravaganza. Here's my review of Thunderball. Hey guys, how's it going? Thunderball was released in 1965. It was the fourth James Bond film starring Sean Connery and was directed by Terence, the director who also directed the first two movies in the series, Dr. No and From Russia With Love. This was the first massive Bond. This is where Bond truly hit his stride. Goldfinger set the stage and the recipe for what we expect from a James Bond film, and Thunderball pushed it over the edge and just went huge. It was a massive phenomenon, and today it's still compared to some of the most over-the-top Bonds that are out there. In fact, it's the fourth movie of every James Bond's tenure that always tends to be completely over-the-top, and this is no exception. It really sets the mark for what is to come in future installments, as the movie went more into parody and a lot more into the comedy angle. Once again, Sean Connery straps on the shoulder holster in his fourth outing as 007, and he's joined by a couple of beauties. Absolutely stunning Claudine Auger stars as Domino, and Luciana Paluzzi stars as the first really bad Bond girl, Fiona Volpe. She's the sidekick to number 2, Adolfo Celi's Emilio Largo, who is working on a plan to hijack 2 nuclear warheads from NATO and hold England and America to ransom. Thunderball starts in true 007 fashion as James Bond straps on a jetpack after beating up a widow after a funeral that turns out that she's the bad guy, and it's not a woman after all. And then we move into the opening titles, expertly done by Maurice Binder, with women swimming in silhouette underwater, whilst Tom Jones kicks out the theme tune for Thunderball to superb effect. So after the opening titles, we see 007 at Shrublands, a health retreat, where he's recovering from his last mission. So while 007 is resting and recuperating, he witnesses strange going on with a Mr. Angela, who's there privately receiving treatment after being in a bad accident and being completely bandaged from head to toe. So it turns out Mr. Angelo works for Spectre. He's undergone plastic surgery to make himself look like Major Duval, a NATO representative that's going to be on board a Vulcan flight transporting 2 atomic weapons. So Angelo kills Duval and replaces him on board the Vulcan flight. The nuclear warheads are stolen from a NATO flight, and 007 is sent to retrieve them, along with all the other 00s that are sent and dispersed around a certain area. 007 requests his mission be changed from Canada because he thinks he's found the lead in Nassau in the Bahamas. So M sends him to Nassau, where he then meets up with Domino, which is Duval's sister. Bond catches up with Domino while she's snorkeling in the Bahamas, and then he soon gets his way and gets under her skin and finds a way to get in there. Domino just happens to be the kept woman or mistress of our film's central villain, Emilio Largo. And this is the number 2 to Ernst Stavro Blofeld in Spectre. And he's the one that came up with this master plan to ransom the West with these nuclear warheads. Bond is aided by his contact in the Bahamas, Paul Levac, who's played by Martine Beswick, and Rick Van Nutter, who is playing the latest version of Felix Leiter. It's a race against time now for 007 to locate the warheads before the deadline expires and America and the UK have to pay Blofeld the ransom that he's asking for. Of course, we get our cameos from MQ and Moneypenny. M and Moneypenny are resigned to London, which is where they should stay, but this is the first film where we actually get to see Q go out into the field and equip 007 on the run. And I've got to admit, it is a very, very good scene where 007 is playing with all the gadgets as Q is trying to brief him, and Q is obviously quite peeved about it. Now, this film really does look great. You do get a feeling of the Bahamas with the sun, the sea, the sand. You get a really Caribbean-y feeling, and the scenes in the Junk Canoe Carnival really do give you the atmosphere of what it must have been like to be there. Granted, by today's editing standards they do look a little bit jumpy, but it is an absolutely fantastic scene, and you do really get a feeling that this is a real carnival. So the film's central villain, as I mentioned, is Emilio Largo, and 007 really gets the better of him in a couple of scenes, one specifically in the casino where he beats him at cards, and another when he goes to his house later on in the movie and he realises that the gun that he's given to shoot with is actually a woman's gun. He pretends he doesn't know how to shoot clay pigeons, but then without a lot of effort he manages to blow one on his first to go. It looks terribly difficult. No, it isn't, is it? Sean Connery says with ease and just that sarcastic smile that just makes you think he's the coolest character on earth. Also, Largo's one of the villains that the Austin Powers movies took a lot of inspiration from in terms of the sharks in the swimming pool except obviously in the Austin Powers movies he wants sharks with freaking laser beams. But in this movie we do get sharks in the swimming pool, and we get a couple of good scenes, especially the scene where Sean Connery's in the pool with them and they should have been partitioned off with plexiglass. However, they didn't manage to put the whole pool with plexiglass, and a real shark got in there and Sean Connery did get a little bit jumpy. Obviously, any Bond villain worth the salt has henchmen, and Largo is no exception. He has Vargas, played by Philip Locke. He again follows the traits of Oddjob in the last movie, that he doesn't talk, he's a silent henchman. And one of my favourite scenes...
Really?
He must have followed us.
I think he got the point.
And also Thunderball gives us the introduction of the bad Bond girl, Fiona Volpe, played by Luciana Paluzzi, and she plays an absolutely voluptuous red-headed girl who is working for Largo, and after she sleeps with Bond, then she betrays him because he doesn't know she's bad, and then she gives the line about how if James Bond makes love to a woman, she goes to the good side, and not this time. And it is absolutely fantastic that she pinpoints that sort of thing, even after just 3 movies. So we've really got to talk about the underwater scenes. This is the first aquatic Bond, and there's a lot of scuba diving sequences in this, and there's a lot of underwater. And then sometimes it does slow the movie down quite a bit, because when it's on the surface the movie does move along quite a good pace, but underwater naturally everything slows down just like it does in real life. So some of the underwater scenes really do drag the movie down, and sometimes almost to a stop. But the underwater scenes are absolutely fantastic. They were choreographed and filmed impeccably, and even now today you would struggle to get some of the scenes that they got there. And I must admit, this is one of the films that actually inspired me to start scuba diving. Granted, when I was a kid I didn't realise I was going to be a scuba diver when I grew up, but it was one of the movies that actually inspired me to want to learn how to scuba dive. However, I must say that looking back, even though this was done in the 1960s, there are some scenes in there where they're working with sharks and stuff, and I've got to admit, I don't think it was completely, in my opinion, the most humane way of doing it, because I know for a fact that they actually had sharks on fish wire to try and guide them where they wanted, and that is not, in my opinion, the best thing. However, they did have to do these sort of things because back then they didn't have CGI to get it back in there, and basically the world was a different place. So I kind of understand that they weren't doing anything malicious, but by today's standards, not the sort of thing I'd like to see. So Bond eventually does track down the warheads just in time, as is customary in these movies, but not before he lets Domino know that Largo is responsible for her brother being killed earlier in the movie. So this inspires Domino to help Bond, and in the end of the movie it's her that actually kills Largo rather than Bond. The movie ends in typical 007 fashion with a massive underwater battle, and again, as I mentioned earlier, choreography is brilliant. You can tell that a lot of work went into this because it must have took a lot of time to get all of these shots and everything that went off. It is absolutely superbly choreographed. Other than times where it is a little bit slow, the climax of the movie is absolutely fantastic. I've got to admit, Thunderball is one of my favourite 007 movies. It's not the top of my list, but it is quite high up there. I never get bored of watching it. The atmosphere the movie gives you is fantastic. And the behind the camera controversy is also really interesting with this movie, in that Kevin McClory owned the rights to this movie because he co-wrote a treatment with Ian Fleming years before that was never used, and Ian Fleming subsequently turned it into the novel Thunderball. So he retained the rights to this movie, and the only way they could make this movie is the fact that they gave him a producer's credit, and Broccoli and Saltzman became executive producers for this movie only, just so they can get this movie made. And McClory would pop up again later on in the 80s to make a rival 007 movie, Never Say Never Again, and even into the 90s and 2000s he also wanted to make a movie called Warhead, which eventually never happened before the Broccoli's finally got the rights back, as they should have had all along. The music by John Barry is also top notch, including the James Bond theme, the 007 theme, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which was originally going to be the film's title theme tune before the Tom Jones song Thunderball came. So the movie has some very good themes. It really does capture the atmosphere of the place, and that, alongside the set design, the editing, the direction by Terence Young is fantastic, and it is just a very, very well put together movie. I've got to admit, I really do like Thunderball. I think it's a very strong entry into the 007 series, and I'm going to give Thunderball 4 out of 5. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Please let me know down below what you thought of Thunderball. Where is it in your ranking list? Is it one of your top or bottom movies in the series? Let me know. I'm very interested to find out. Please hit that subscribe button if you've not done so already. I'll see you next month for the next James Bond review, which will be You Only Live Twice. Bye.